In October 2019, just before Halloween, I was driving through a quiet stretch of countryside in upstate New York. I had just finished filming a small documentary project in a nearby town and decided to take a shortcut suggested by my GPS. That shortcut led me onto Willow Creek Road, a narrow, winding path that cut through dense woods for miles. At first, it seemed like any other rural road. Tall trees leaned inward as if trying to block out the sky, their branches clawing at the dim evening light. My headlights barely pierced through the thickening darkness. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, leaving behind a cold, gray twilight. I remember checking my phone. No signal. That didn't bother me much at the time. I figured I'd be out of the woods in 15 minutes or so. I was wrong. About 10 minutes into the drive, I noticed something strange. My GPS screen froze. The map stopped updating, and the small blue arrow that marked my position remained stuck in place. Then, without warning, the screen went completely black. I topped it. Nothing. I restarted the device. Still nothing. That's when I felt it. A subtle shift in the atmosphere. The air inside my car suddenly felt heavier, colder. I instinctively turned down the radio, though I didn't remember turning it on in the first place. A faint static filled the silence. I told myself it was just nerves. Then I saw her. Standing on the side of the road, about 50 feet ahead, was a woman. She wasn't moving. She stood perfectly still, facing away from me, her long, dark hair hanging unnaturally straight down her back. She wore what looked like a thin, pale dress, the kind that seemed out of place for the cold autumn night. I slowed the car. For a moment, I thought she might be someone who needed help. Maybe her car had broken down. But something felt off. The way she stood there, completely motionless, didn't feel human. Still, I rolled down my window slightly and called out, "Hey, are you okay?" No response. As I got closer, my headlights fully illuminated her figure. That's when she moved, but not in a normal way. Her head tilted slowly to the side, far more than it should have, until it was almost resting against her shoulder. Then, in one stiff, unnatural motion, she turned around. I wish I could forget what I saw. Her face was pale, not just pale, but grayish, like something drained of life. Her eyes, they didn't look right. They were wide open, reflecting the headlights, but there was no expression behind them, no emotion, no recognition, just emptiness. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly on the gravel. For a second, we just stared at each other. Then, she smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. It stretched too wide, too far across her face, as if it didn't belong there. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to leave. So I did. I pressed the gas and sped past her. As I passed, I glanced in my rearview mirror. She was still there, but now she was closer, much closer. Closer than she should have been. My heart started pounding. I told myself it was just panic, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But then something even worse happened. My headlights flickered. Once, twice. Then they went out completely. I was driving in complete darkness. I slammed on the brakes and stopped the car. The engine was still running, but everything else had died. Lights, dashboard, radio, total silence. Then, slowly, the radio turned on by itself. At first, it was just static. Then, a voice. Faint, distorted. "Don't. Stop." I froze. "She's behind you." I didn't want to look. Every part of me knew that if I turned around, I would see something I'd never be able to forget. But I couldn't help it. Slowly, painfully slowly, I turned my head. The back seat was empty. I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. Then I looked forward again, and she was standing right in front of my car, no more than a few feet away. Her face pressed close to the windshield, her eyes locked on mine, and that same unnatural smile stretched across her face. I screamed and tried to start the car again, even though it was already running. I hit the gas. Nothing. The car wouldn't move. She raised one hand slowly and placed it against the glass. That's when I noticed something horrifying. Her fingers were too long, unnaturally long, and they bent the wrong way. The radio crackled again. "You shouldn't have come here." Suddenly, the engine roared back to life, the headlights flickered on, and she was gone. I didn't waste a second. I floored the gas and drove as fast as I could, not caring about the winding road or the darkness. I just needed to get out of there. After what felt like an eternity, I finally saw lights in the distance, a gas station at the edge of the woods. I pulled in, shaking, barely able to breathe. The man behind the counter looked at me like he'd seen this before. "Willow Creek Road?" he asked. I nodded. He sighed. "You're not the first." He told me that for years, people have reported seeing a woman on that road, always at night, always alone. Some said she had died there decades ago in a car accident. Others claimed she had been murdered and left in the woods. But the stories all had one thing in common. If you stopped for her, she followed you. I asked him if anyone had ever been hurt. He hesitated. "Not everyone makes it out," he said quietly. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Even now, years later, I still think about what happened. And sometimes, when I'm driving alone at night, I check the back seat, just to be sure, because once, just once, I thought I saw her reflection, smiling, right behind me.